Welcome back everyone, this is the last episode of the Balkan Civilization series and I'm actually very happy to talk about the Illyrians last, because of all the ones we've covered so far, they're probably my favorite. You should see a poll at your right. Be sure to answer it because I am legitimately curious about your favorite episode. If you're not sure yet, watch this video until the end. Who knows, maybe the Illyrians will be your choice. Let's start. The Illyrians are an interesting group because even if they had the same culture, they never really reunited, kinda like the Greeks if you think about it. The Illyrians were in many ways the Vikings of southern Europe in classical times. They were especially known in the Adriatic for being skilled sailors and, of course, pirates. There were many Illyrian tribes. The Ardii is perhaps the most famous and most powerful Illyrian tribe. They were one of the few tribes able to create a proper kingdom, with land stretching from Montenegro to Albania. We will get more into that later. First, there are a few more tribes worth mentioning. The Darcy Tribe was the only Illyrian tribe to be Hellenized. They adopted Greek culture and costumes. Their capital, Daorson, was known for being a Greek oasis in the barbaric lands of Illyria. There were also the Dardani, Pannonians, and the Taulanti. They were three formidable tribes that often worked together to bash Macedonians and Celts in the area. The Dardani are often treated as their own thing, and I did so too, and therefore I made a whole video about them and their kingdom. There were also some Illyrians living outside of Illyria, such as the Iapygians, the Puseti, the Daudanians, and the Massapians. They lived in today's Apulia and were fierce enemies of the Greek city-state of Taranto, also called Taras. Back in Illyria, in the northern region that today we would call Dalmatia, lived the Dalmatae, a nomadic tribe that fought valiantly against Rome in several occasions. Finally, there were the Brueci and the Pannonians, some of the many Illyrian tribes that were deeply influenced by their Celtic neighbors. Today, there are many cultures claiming to be partly or entirely related to the Illyrians. So far, the only people with a somewhat believable claim are the Albanians, but it's still a bit of a stretch. It seems that the Illyrian identity laid in their culture and religion, before their language and physical characteristics. Illyrian religion was very well known and it survived up until the late years of Roman Empire, and by survived I mean it was practiced. Illyrians worshipped the sun as well as several animals such as horses, snakes and birds, depending on their location, kind of like the Samnites. They practiced cremation like their Venetic neighbors and used weird symbols like the ones used by the Etruscans. It seems that the Illyrians did not develop a uniform cosmology on which to center their religious practices, but they were unique nevertheless. Their language is vastly unknown, and we do not have a lot of written down examples of Illyrian languages, at least coming from Illyria. The only exception is Messapian in Apulia, which we can assume was highly intelligible to most Illyrians, but we cannot say for sure. It does seem to have some similarities with Thracian, and Albanian might have traces of a southern Illyrian language, but again, this is pretty much speculation. In warfare, Illyrians were known for being agile and effective. They were organized in small groups, loyal to a tribal chief. Therefore, they rarely united in bigger forces, so they became masters of guerrilla techniques. Warriors used spears and a small curved sword called the sika, very good for slashing. They also had shields. In the south they were round, but in the north, probably due to the Celtic influence, they also had square and oval shields. Wealthy warriors also wore bronze armor ranging from breastplates to helmets to greaves. Illyrians were also great with light cavalry, especially in the north. They loved to throw sharp things at slow infantry units, resulting into a pain in the ass for the Romans to deal with. When it comes to navigation, they often sailed around small warships called lambus. They must have been a common sight in the Adriatic at the time. Now that we are done with the details, let's look at some history. The most important time period for the Illyrians has to be between 250 BC and 160 BC. This time includes the birth and quick expansion of the kingdom of the Ardii, the most powerful Illyrian state, who fought 3 wars against the Romans. However, it was not just the Ardii who fought. A lot of other Illyrian tribes joined them in the wars, therefore we call them the Illyrian Wars instead of the Ardii Wars. In 250 BC, King Agron became the king of the Ardii. He conquered his way around northern Epirus and southern Illyria. He then built a strong navy and went on many raiding campaigns against and around Greece. In 231, he was succeeded by his wife Teuta, who turned her kingdom into a raiding business, allowing raiders to use their ships in exchange for a part of their loot. The Ardii became feared all over the Mediterranean and attracted the attention of the Romans. Some ambassadors were sent to see Teuta, who welcomed them and promised them not to use her own forces to attack Italy, but she could do very little to stop her raiders from going there independently. This made one ambassador very angry, and so she killed him. When the Senate found out about this, they declared war on the Ardii and attacked Illyria, taking Teuta by surprise. The war ended in 228 BC. Teuta was forced to pay a tribute to Rome for a while and to give up some of their ports. About 10 years later, things got tense between Rome and the Ardii again after the new leader Demetrius started raiding Italy more frequently. When Rome attacked, Demetrius was more prepared, and he had built many fortifications along the coast and around 300 more ships. This war was harsher on the Romans, but they eventually won. Demetrius fled to Macedon, and Rome had secured their holding in Illyria. For the next 50 years, the Ardii kingdom adopted a tamer foreign policy, preferring cooperation with the Romans instead of war. This was until King Gentius inherited the throne. He reintroduced an anti-Roman approach to the kingdom, and he built some local alliances, especially with Macedon. Domestically, he strengthened the local currency and the rest of the economy. By 168 BC, he was at war with the Romans again, and even though they fought very valiantly at land and sea, the Romans eventually won, seizing all the Ardii ships, land and people permanently. Later in history, the province of Illyria will become one of the most integrated lands in the empire, and many emperors will be born here. Today, Illyria, just like in ancient times, is very diverse and interesting, and I don't have a final message, I just thought it was important to say. Well, yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and I will see you next time with a brand new series this time.